The Season 1 finale of Alien Earth is nothing short of explosive, a wild culmination of everything that's been building across the series. Episode 8, titled The Real Monsters, shifts the entire balance of power on Neverland Island, setting up a dangerous and unpredictable new status quo for Season 2. But before we dive deep into the fallout and what it all means, let's rewind just a little to Episode 7. Because the chaos of the finale doesn't fully land unless you remember how tense and brutal things were in the penultimate chapter. In Episode 7, it looked like Morrow had the upper hand. He was cold, calculating, and seemed ready to crush the Lost Boys with ruthless efficiency. Yet, in a surprising turn, Kirsch subdued him, though not without injury to himself, leaving the chessboard open for betrayal, revenge, and shifting allegiances. Episode 8 picks up right where that chaos left off. And from the very first moment, it's clear that the so-called real monsters aren't just the aliens on the island, but the hybrids and humans alike who are clawing for control. The ending of Alien Earth Season 1 is all about Wendy stepping fully into her power. By the close of the finale, Wendy has stripped Boy Kavalier of his authority over Neverland Island and turned Prodigy's fortress into her own kingdom. She isn't just leading the Lost Boys anymore. She's ruling over a fractured empire that includes terrified survivors, unpredictable hybrids, and alien creatures that could erupt at any moment. What's so striking in that final sequence is the way Wendy looks at Boy K. There's no fear left in her, no deference to him as her so-called creator. Instead, she's intoxicated by her own dominance. The camera lingers on her, eyes blazing, as Joe watches carefully in the background. That detail, Joe silently observing, might be one of the most important setups for Season 2, because while Wendy has embraced her role as Queen of Neverland, Joe remains human, fragile, and caught in between loyalty and survival. One of the key threads running through Episode 8 is revenge, and nearly every character gets a taste of it. Slightly finally delivers justice to Morrow, knocking him unconscious after enduring manipulation and torment from him for most of the season. Smee takes custody of a badly injured Kirsch, who, despite his earlier moment of triumph, is now completely vulnerable. Nibs, who's very much alive and a force in her own right, takes revenge on Dame Sylvia in a brutal confrontation. It's an especially powerful moment because Nibs, unlike Wendy, isn't drunk on power. She's angry, but her anger is directed, purposeful, and it reminds us that she is a dangerous player moving into Season 2. Meanwhile, Curly, also known as Jane, takes out Rashidi, one of Prodigy's soldiers, after Siberian is killed by one of the aliens. These scenes of retaliation make the finale feel almost Shakespearean in its structure. Betrayals answered with blood, violence sparking more violence, and every character revealing who they truly are when the balance of power shifts. And then there's Arthur. What could have been a forgotten side character becomes one of the creepiest and most unsettling twists in the finale. Arthur's corpse becomes the host for the eyeball monster, creating one of the show's most nightmarish images. The sight of the alien working through his dead body is disturbing enough, but what's even more haunting is that this cliffhanger is far from resolved. In fact, the finale strongly hints that the eye creature will speak in Season 2, using Arthur's body as a grotesque puppet. The very thought of hearing dialogue come out of Arthur's lifeless form is chilling, and it might turn into one of the most memorable aspects of the show going forward. But the power struggle on Neverland Island isn't just about the Lost Boys versus Prodigy. Adam Ines and Kirsch, two of Prodigy's most advanced assets, are rendered useless by the finale. Wendy learns that Adam is a synth, and she quickly overrides his motor functions, essentially stripping him of free will. It's a terrifying demonstration of how powerful Wendy has become, and it raises deeper questions about Boy Kavalier's past. In one of the finale's most intriguing revelations, Boy K admits that he had his father killed and replaced by a synth when he was only 6 years old. That synth is heavily implied to be Adam Ines. The connection isn't spelled out in a single line of dialogue, but the sequence of events makes it almost undeniable. Adam isn't just Boy K's creation. He's his dad, a twisted surrogate parent built from trauma and arrogance. This revelation adds a whole new dimension to Boy K, painting him as not just a manipulative CEO, but a deeply broken man who's been rewriting his own family history since childhood. Speaking of Boy K, the finale leaves him in perhaps the weakest position we've ever seen. Once the ruler of Neverland and the head of Prodigy's terrifying experiments, he's now essentially a prisoner of Wendy's rule. The only other surviving human in the Prodigy holding cell is Dame Sylvia, But with Nibs having already taken her vengeance, Sylvia's future looks bleak. Boy K doesn't have real allies left. Even Adam and Kirsch, once his loyal pieces on the board, are either incapacitated or under Wendy's thumb. His only potential lifeline might be Morrow. But Morrow's loyalty has always leaned toward Yutani. And considering Slightly's vendetta, it seems unlikely that any sort of truce between Morrow and the hybrids would last long. That brings us to the corporate stakes, which the finale quietly sets up for Season 2. Prodigy's floor model hybrids are a complete disaster. There's no chance they'll be presented as a success after the chaos on Neverland. The company is now vulnerable, and Boy K's empire looks ready to collapse. Yutani's reinforcements are already approaching the island in the final moments of the finale, which promises a violent clash right at the start of next season. But Yutani isn't the only player on the board. The show reminds us that 3 other corporations, Lynch, Dynamic, and Threshold, also hold major influence over Earth. And while they've been quiet in Season 1, it's hard to imagine them staying silent as Prodigy burns. Season 2 could very well expand the battlefield, pulling in new corporate interests and new players who want to harness the power of the hybrids and aliens for themselves. Yet for all the shifting alliances and looming threats, the heart of the finale rests on Wendy herself. Her identity crisis comes to a head in this episode. Is she Marcy? Is she Wendy? Or has she become something else entirely, something beyond human? Unlike Slightly and Smee, who still retain their youthful human appearance despite being hybrids, Wendy looks altered, transformed by the power trip she's been on all season. By the final frame, she isn't just a hybrid or a leader, she's a ruler intoxicated by the control she wields. The show makes it clear that while she may have stripped Boy K of his authority, she risks becoming just as tyrannical as he ever was. Joe's watchful eyes in the background capture that tension perfectly. Admiration, fear, and uncertainty all mixed together. Their relationship, slightly fractured by Joe shooting Nibs in the previous episode, remains intact for now, but it's walking a very thin line. The finale also plants seeds of horror that will surely bloom in Season 2. The plant monster is still roaming the island, the eyeball alien is puppeteering Arthur's corpse, and Wendy's pet xenomorph remains a looming threat. The fact that so many dangerous alien species are still at large raises immediate stakes. While it's unlikely the show will allow a full-scale alien outbreak on Earth, given its prequel nature, Season 2 is poised to explore containment, control, and the horrors of trying to weaponize creatures that cannot be controlled. So what does all this mean for Season 2? The most exciting setup is the inevitable confrontation between Wendy's new kingdom and the approaching forces of Yutani. It's not just about who holds the island. It's about who controls the future of hybrid evolution and alien research. Wendy might believe she has the upper hand, but if Boy K is as cunning as he claims, there's always the possibility he still has a trick hidden away, perhaps even a kill switch for the hybrids. Season 2 would test Wendy physically and psychologically, forcing her to confront not just her enemies, but herself. Will she be the liberator of the Lost Boys? Or will she morph into the very kind of tyrant she fought against? By the end of Episode 8, one thing is clear. Alien Earth has masterfully set the stage for a bigger, darker, and even more twisted story. The monsters aren't just the aliens lurking in the shadows. They're also the hybrids, the corporations, and the humans willing to sacrifice anything for control. Season 1 leaves us on the edge of our seats, not just wondering who will survive, but who will truly become the real monsters when the battle for Neverland continues.